Are you ready? Let's go!
Don't you sometimes just want to talk about everything? You know, there's days when you can just talk about anything. Need to sit back and chat about nothing at all? Nothing But Julie, coming at you with fun and creative topics and interviews.
Did you hear Julie's podcast? She's got the greatest topics.
Come join the chat about everything, anything, and nothing. So unwind and tune in to Nothing But Julie. Great topics and cool interviews with some pretty awesome people. And now, without further delay, here's Nothing But Julie.
Hello, everybody. It's Julie Schrager and Rhonda Marie, Nothing But Julie podcast. What's up, Rhonda?
Hey, Julie. How are you?
I'm doing great. How have you been?
Pretty good, except for my foot.
Oh, what happened to your foot?
I've hurt my foot somehow, and so now I'm in a walking boot.
What?
Yes.
How did that? I'm sure it had something to do with your animals or walking.
No, I have no idea. So it was fine one day. Like, okay, so a couple weeks ago, I thought I broke my pinky toe, right? And my whole foot was like bruised and whatever. And I just kind of like ignored it because they don't do anything for broken toes, right? You know, so, and it went away after a few days and it was fine. So then the other morning I wake up and I can't walk on my foot.
Oh.
And so
like just could not walk.
I cannot put any weight, like, you know, where your toes meet your foot.
Yeah.
It's like the second, not my big toe, but the one next to it. It's like right there in that like ball of your foot. And it's swollen. My toes are swollen and there's a bruise underneath my toes and I cannot put any weight on it.
Could it be a bite?
It's inside. Like I can feel it inside, like very painful. So I have a boot on now.
So did you go to the doctor?
I did not. I just bought the boot because I read that there's nothing they can do except put you in a boot.
Unless it's a, like a venomous spider bite or something.
And we'll just see if my foot falls off.
Oh, let's not do that. Let's not wait. I mean, how long have... God, you're so...
It started on Friday. So
does it still hurt just as much?
Right now I'll say no, but I haven't been walking, but I have had the boot on today too. So when I've been walking, I've had the boot on and it hurts at night. Like when I go to lay down, like a broken bone does, like after you've been using it all day, it aches and it has that like throbbing. It feels just like when I've, fractured things before.
Huh. Well, I wouldn't wait.
So I think it's just that toe.
It could be just, don't wait a long period of time. If it gets worse, you should definitely see someone.
Yeah, if it gets worse, I will go see someone. But it's not too bad. And I have this boot on.
Don't you love when these things just pop up out of the blue?
It's like, I was like, okay, because, I just turned 40. So I was like, okay, is this what it's like now? I'll just wake up in the morning. And just a part of my body will just be.
That is not what happens. You don't wake up with your foot hurting you. I'm older than you, and I am telling you that the normal aches and pains. Yes, sometimes when I'm really comfortable or I've been sitting a little too long, I'm like, and I get up, I'm like, oh, that like lower back kind of feeling. But it's not like I haven't gotten to that point yet to where I have like the creaks and the cracks. I am sure it's going to happen, but at this point yet, it hasn't. And I think it also has a lot to do with, staying physical and active, but with your toe, I mean, you are so active also, especially you have a farm and the animals and who knows, you might've done something and you don't even remember.
That's what I thought. Cause I was like, because everyone asked like, well, what did you do? And I said, well, I can't remember any like significant event. I did read that like, it's a common area for people who ride horses their whole life to weaken over time. And so
is it that
they could
it be the stirrups?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. The way you hold your feet in the stirrups, it kind of weakens that area over time.
Interesting.
And then you can just step wrong and it kind of tweak something in there.
Did you ever, because this has happened to me before, my index finger, once every now and then, like let's say I'm trying to open up a can, like a can of pickles, right? And I try to turn it and I'm turning it and you can't really open the jar. And then you finally get it, but sometimes I will hit a certain spot in the back of my index finger, like where the ligaments are. And all of a sudden you could see it almost like sticking out a little bit. I know it sounds really weird, but it's
Like spasming almost.
no, like it, like I literally like pushed my ligament into the jar so hard that it like busts out. It's very strange. And then for like a few hours, that ligament is just sticking out and it is killing me to where I can't even use my finger. And then it just kind of pops back into place on its own. I know it sounds strange, but I'm just saying, like your body, depending on how you angle things, I think sometimes, or how you maneuver your body in certain things like your fingers and your toes and whatever, I think that like they're so much more susceptible to fracturing. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
it sounds really weird, but it's
Kind of like a yeah, but it's like a soft tissue injury,
yeah,
but
well still,
yeah.
but they could still be painful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Like a sprain.
Speaking of spring, so happy spring to you in
Happy spring to
hot
you.
Arizona. Oh, thanks. So in Florida, as I'm sure is in Arizona, the weather is pretty much the same. It gets a little boring. I do miss the seasons. I used to live in New York, so I do miss the seasons. So although I think it turns spring on Saturday.
Yeah, the 20th.
Yeah, I saw this really funny picture for Florida with a beautiful palm tree growing out of the sand at a beach. And you see just the palm tree, the sand, and you see the water. And it says Florida in the winter. And then right next to it, the exact same picture, Florida in the spring.
Yes.
And it's so
Yes.
true. But, let's discuss things that we like to do in the springtime. And I was saying earlier, coming from New York and experiencing the four seasons, I remember coming out of the funk of winter and it's March. And there were times when I would see the beginnings of, little daffodil, the bulbs and starting to spring up a little. And then
Oh
like
yeah.
in April, bam, snow. It's just crazy. So although it's technically spring, there are still days where it could get really cold in New York. In Florida, this is when it starts to really warm up. I think we might have another, I don't know, maybe 2 good weeks of decent weather, and then it's all over for the next few months. But I'd like to know some things that you like to do in the spring and even things that you might remember doing, with your son, because you didn't always live in Arizona.
No, so I grew up in Florida, then we lived in Oklahoma, and then we moved to Arizona. My son was already an adult
Mm,
when I moved to Arizona. But so I mean, I grew up never experiencing seasons, and I remember like always thinking I really want to live somewhere where there's four seasons
yes.
and where it changes and I can see like, oh, the leaves are getting for the fall and then as winter comes. I always wanted to experience that. And so I never got to. Oklahoma has a little bit of seasons, but it's still pretty far south.
Mm,
So, but they do get like leaves changing and they get snow and ice in the winter. So the spring is really pretty there because like you said, it's everything, it gets pretty cold there, even if it doesn't snow all the time. So everything turns
right.
brown. And then when the spring comes, you have the daffodils and all the wildflowers and the trees start blooming. And it's really, really pretty.
Well, I miss that a lot. I miss the change of
You
seasons and the change of color. And we were supposed to go to the Carolinas. Let's see now. I think it was like October of 2020, but there was that whole second wave, third wave of COVID. And we just decided, it's just not the best time. But now that, things are starting to slowly get better with the vaccines and stuff. Meanwhile, did you see what's happening in Florida with spring break?
I did
Oh my
not.
God.
I should because somehow when I was in Florida on my laptop, I was reading news there, and somehow now Florida, the Tampa Tribune news is getting like popping up for me every morning.
Hmm.
So somehow I've done that.
It's pretty bad. I mean, there are videos that apparently Miami, which is maybe 45 minutes to an hour from me, has been overrun with spring break kids. Not one is wearing a mask. It is like a concert, like elbow to elbow, and kids acting like idiots that they
Which they do on
which
spring
they
break.
do, but actually they're becoming dangerous. They're doing like there's a
Oh,
video I saw of a young kid, a college age kid, who ran out of the restaurant to avoid paying, and then they had to track him down. And the thing of it is when I was younger and I went to Fort Lauderdale on the Strip, and I would do that for spring break. But my grandparents lived in Florida. I was always there for spring break from school anyway. It wasn't until I was older that I met like a group of girls from school, and we all happened to have grandparents that lived within the same area. So we all would get together and go to Fort Lauderdale. What did we do? We walked on the sidewalk. Kids were in their cars honking horns. That was it. Now the kids are overrunning the streets. They're all in the streets. They're twerking in the streets. They're half naked. They're acting like worse than they normally, would act.
you think they're acting worse because they've been cooped up for so
I
long?
think so, but
You
I
know,
think
like
they,
like so many of them have been home with their parents, and now they feel like they're finally
yes and
free,
no.
and so they don't know how to behave.
Yes and no. Yes. And then the no is you are still a young adult. You need to have respect for the area that you're in. They had to now add a curfew and shut down certain businesses. Businesses are being vandalized. This is what I'm talking about. This is not just
Oh, that
kids having fun. This is kids being dangerous and being disrespectful, and it that is a whole different type of a spring break. And from what I understand, also, like the kids are not even listening. There was another video I saw where the police are patrolling the beaches, and some kid got arrested, and there's like this crowd of spring break kids, and they're all around the cop car, and one kid opened up the back of the cop car, and the kid that was arrested in the back seat with handcuffs ran out.
oh my
So, and
God.
now you have the cops chasing after him, and you can see all the kids are now running after the kid and after the cop and calling the cops these horrible names. This kid just turned like a simple misdemeanor into a felony, you know. But yes,
Right.
I don't disagree.
Because they're being
They're
dumb.
being dumb, but it's okay. It's okay to be cooped up, and now you're free and everything. But you need to have a bit of respect for the area that you're living in, and to be
Right.
vandalizing things and to be doing things to the point where you are actually. I really wonder if some of it is an excuse, like, oh, I've been cooped up. I really wonder if that they're just using that.
Right. They're using that as an
Yeah,
excuse.
it's out of hand, and spring break is still going on because there's different times that different states have spring break. So it's like ongoing for like 3 weeks. And
Oh, yeah. No, I do remember that about living in Florida was that everyone would be like, it was not just spring
one
break
week and
for
that's
like
it.
one
Right.
week and that's it. It was
Like the
spring
whole
break
month of
for
March.
yes,
But then
yes.
before that,
Like it was
you've got the college kids, and a lot of these kids are college kids, but there's a lot that are high schoolers, and I'm thinking to myself, where are the parents? And I would say a huge majority of these kids are not paying for spring break, and the parents are, so they're at fault as well.
right because I mean, I remember when Jacob was little, he went on spring break without us one time, and it was with a church youth group. And so they were not being wild. Like it was, they got to go to the beach and they got to go to restaurants, but they weren't allowed to go without an adult,
Right.
and they weren't allowed to, they were very supervised. So there was no destruction, there was no incidents like that. But other than that, like I would not just turn my 16 or 17-year-old child loose for spring break.
No, no. Either would I. And you know what? When I was a kid, it was a totally different story. The things that we did that we thought were bad then make us look so good compared to the things that I just saw. And let's not forget that little thing called the pandemic. And now we're going to be yet
Yeah.
again the epicenter of it. And our governor is sitting back, opening up more and more stuff. He's nowhere to be found, and these kids are just, let loose. But there's only so much to do. I mean, I'm so tired of getting like angry all the time with what's going on. I mean, I have to just, I like, I'm such a mom. I shake my head. Ugh, I do the tisk tisk, and my head is shaking. But there are a lot of things I remember that I not only enjoyed in the springtime, um, as I was growing up and as an adult, but that I love doing with my son. And one of the things I loved doing was buying the tulip bulbs and the daffodil bulbs, and I would plant them throughout the garden, and then
Right.
watching them just pop up and not having to do anything, just watching them pop up because I already did the hard work. Did you ever do that? Plant bulbs?
We did. So I mean, I remember growing up, and when we lived in Oklahoma, we did this, planting everything. With my grandparents, we would go to their house and just plant like all of these beautiful annual flowers, and it would be
Oh,
so colorful and pretty. I was kind of missing that this year, so Mark and I went to Lowe's and bought a bunch of plants. We can't grow anything outside here unless it's a native plant or you have irrigation.
right.
And it's so expensive to do irrigation, or it's just so difficult to grow things outside. Like right now they'd be okay, but then once it hits summer, the sun will just bake and kill everything.
Yep.
So we did house plants. And so I'm becoming one of those people that has all these house plants, with my little spray bottle going around every day to water them.
Oh, you know,
But it's nice because we both miss green things.
I'm laughing because everything here dies too. And I love color. And I've lived here now, we're going on to 20 years. And it's been so hard to find things that thrive in such a hot climate.
Mhm.
And over the last 20 years, I can't tell you how many times I've redone my landscaping in the hopes. Like I even went so far as trying to grow roses. Nope, they friggin' died. And I just gave up hope, and all I have now are memories of what life used to be like with color and pretty plants. And it's really hard in this state to find things that just thrive. There is actually I have a few plants that are artificial that are in my backyard because
So that you can always have it.
yes, and I can see color. I mean, what do I have? Cactuses. I know you have lots of cactus where you live.
We do have a
Oh
lot of
my
cactus.
God. I remember when I visited there last in Arizona, and I just saw cacti. Is that the plural? The
Yes,
cacti
yes, that's correct. Everywhere. Yes.
everywhere. Oh my goodness. All right, some things I like to do here, um, before it gets so miserable is I love going to farmers markets. Do you have that in
Oh,
Arizona?
we do have farmers markets here, but again, it's this like you have to be like right now we could
Hmm.
go, but give it a couple weeks and it will be too hot.
Yes, I understand that. Um, and it's funny because living in New York and then Florida, everything is the opposite. So when it's winter there, even though it's obviously winter here, most people are indoors in New York. Here, we're all outdoors. Once the summer
Right.
comes, or spring, early summer in New York, everyone's out and enjoying the beautiful weather. And we now have to be stuck inside because just gets so hot. We don't even have much of a spring. It's usually like winter, summer. That's pretty much it. And winter is like such baloney anyway. I mean, they call it the money weather, which is when all this,
Oh, yes, because when all the snowbirds are down.
right. And so it's like, when it's so beautiful out and it's time to be out, it's hard to enjoy it because it's so crowded. And I I live in an area where it's like horse country. There's lots of polo and equestrians,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And so it's wonderful and I love it, don't get me wrong, but it's so crowded. So then when they all leave and it gets so hot, I can't be outside now because it's too freaking hot to be outside.
It's, I saw something the other day where it was when I was still in Florida. My mom said she read she found an article where they compared Florida and Arizona.
Mm,
And she was like, do you think they're a lot alike, having lived in both places? And I was like, well, the weather I said, although it's dry in Arizona and it's humid in Florida, I said the weather is pretty similar where there's not really a winter, there's no changing of the seasons. The landscape pretty much looks the same all year long. I said, and then the snowbirds are similar. I
Yes.
said, when it's winter here and it's actually cool enough to go do something and be outside, like you said, it's full
Ugh.
of everyone who does not live
Well,
here.
that's just it, and I knew that, when I moved to Florida, but since we moved here, 20 years ago, the amount of people that have moved here, and especially even more now because of COVID, I just cannot believe I've been reading a few local articles about that it's a seller's market here for real estate and how like one house is being fought over by a plethora of people and the highest bid obviously wins, but it's like a real estate war here now. People that want to buy,
Oh, that's
yeah.
interesting.
And it's great if you're selling your house, you just
Right. But if you're looking to
it
buy,
right.
then
I think it was Facebook the other day that I'm part of this Wellington group, and one of the mothers had it's a mom's group, and she had said this, and said, I need help. Does anybody know of a way to like get this particular home? Can someone put a good word in? And it's amazing to me how many more people from the north, like New York, they're all a lot of them are leaving because of COVID, and how bad it's gotten, and because of the what's the word I'm looking for?
they're still having a lot of restrictions, aren't
Yeah, and
they?
and actually, I believe Cuomo is slowly starting to open up things. He just lowered the vaccination age to those that are 50 and older, but there's a lot of I don't want to I don't want to say it if it's not 100% true, but from people that I know there, lots of shootings, murders, lots of stuff going on ever since what's been going on with the cops, and so people are fleeing, and
Okay. So this the whole climate is
the
getting bad.
whole climate is getting bad, mostly in the city. I'm not talking like Long Island area. We're talking Manhattan.
Right. But in the city,
Within the
yeah.
city, my husband actually has a very good friend that he's known since he was a kid, and he recently moved from let's see, the city. I think he moved to Connecticut because he's lived in the city forever, and he's like, I've got to get out of here. It's so bad.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, moving on from that, how about just gardening in general? I mean, I know I spoke about the bulbs, but do you remember
So
gardening?
I love gardening and I would love to have a garden. And we've talked about putting in like some raised beds to like maybe have like a salsa garden or something.
Oh,
But we have to, because I've always had, this is the first time I've never not just had like a salsa garden where you have just those
that
ingredients.
is such a
And
great idea.
right, because then you can always make fresh
Yes.
salsa. And so this is the first time I've never had that. But like when we turn our goats out, they would just eat those plants because we don't have a separate yard
Mm,
cordoned off yet. So we would need that first. And then of course, we have our dogs, so
yeah.
we would need like it would have to be a raised bed so that obviously they don't just go in there and we do have one male dog, he would just pee all over the tomato plants and then what would you can't eat that then because it's in your mind.
Right.
And right, like
Ew.
it wouldn't even matter like if you bought vegetable wash and washed them because all you would think about when you're eating that salsa is like my dog peed on these tomatoes and it would
Oh
ruin it for
my
you.
God.
Yeah.
I've got to tell you, my husband and I were thinking about doing that many, many years ago. He actually built this really cool wooden raised bed, and I put, organic seeds for like tomatoes and cucumbers. But I
Yes.
don't, I think that the way he built it, that it just was not deep enough. And because
Oh,
of that, we were unsuccessful. But animals and stuff. So I was like, okay, what can we do? So we got some like chicken wire, right? So we put the
yes.
chicken, this took forever. Put chicken wire around it. Oops, forgot about the birds, forgot about, other things that
Right.
can like get in there, like, oh, lizards from the bottom, they can get up. So
Right. And it's so much,
It's just,
right?
for a wonderful, simple idea to just have a few things in my home, like a cucumber.
Yes.
I couldn't even do that.
Right.
So I was like, screw this. And it's been quite a few years, but I had this idea. So I have a puppy and he has a pen, and the pen is made of metal and it's like an octagon. And I thought, what if I did something where I actually could put this around it and then put a top, like chicken wire or metal
Oh,
netting on top of it, where I could remove it, but then
yeah.
this it's like an actual full enclosure.
Right. But then you could take it off. That way you could
Yes.
easily, because like the thing is, we were talking about like building that. And so we went through all the things because of course we have a ton of like different wire and building materials that we just keep here because like you said, we have all the animals and
Right.
stuff. And so Mark has gone over all of these ways that he could possibly build this for me. But the thing is, I need to be able to get in there as well.
Exactly.
And so that, like, when you build all this with all this wire and stuff, now, like, I have to be able to get in there to, like, if weeds pop
Exactly.
up. And, so, like, do I have to take this whole thing down and then rebuild it
But
every
that's
time?
where I'm at now, even with the puppy. Like I did not get something that has a door. To like like a crate has, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't think. First of all, my husband's 6'4". He literally could just walk right over, but I'm teeny, and so I'm like on my tippy toes trying to get over this thing. But it's
Oh,
just like what you're talking about. For that, you can always buy like a door with a latch on it, or I can always cut it and close.
yeah, have a little,
Yeah.
like, yeah, door to get
But
in there.
I'm going to have to do a lot more research than I had done before because I need the depth, and I also have to find out exactly what will survive and when's the best time in Florida.
See, yeah, so that's my thing because it does get so hot here. And so I need to find a part of our yard that gets shade part
Yes,
of the day.
yes.
Because if it's just, if it's 118 degrees and it's just sun beating down on my poor
Mhm.
tomatoes, I don't think that they can survive.
Well, that especially with the Arizona heat. It's and here
Right.
we have well, let's see. Okay, so it is hotter in the front at around 2 o'clock. That's where the sun is. Okay. So we have
Right.
more of like a west directional where we live. And so where the way my house is set up, the sun rises in my backyard. So at about 2, 3 o'clock, it's now kind of really come around to the front, which is good for me because you're not having the hottest sun during the time it's in the backyard because it's starting to come around the side and then the front. So for me, it actually works out really well. It's just a matter of figuring out what the hell to do. And I would love to do it. But then I said to my husband, what if we just get that? What is that called? You can do it in the house. You can have like little tomatoes and,
Oh, yes. We just bought an herb garden. So that was one of the things we're
ooh,
doing for spring. And it came in a kit.
yes.
And the thing is, like, Mark is working at Lowe's now. So he just sees all these
Ah,
things and he's like, I got to show you all of these, like, plant things, that you love so much. And so it's just a little kit and it comes with everything. It comes with the little cute wooden container, 4 little pots, the soil, the seeds,
it's a
and
great
so
idea.
and it's just like for most used things in your kitchen, like
Right.
basil, cilantro, and two others. I can't remember exactly, but it's like, really common herbs that you would use
It's
all the
called
time.
hydroponic. Sorry, I just had to look it up because it was going to bother me.
Oh,
Or an
yes.
arrow garden. But I've got to tell you, I love herbs just as much as the next person. But I would, for just for my own personal reasons, I would rather grow an actual garden. But if I were to grow a garden indoors, the only thing I could do is grow cherry tomatoes. You can't grow a full on friggin' garden in this thing.
No, no. I mean, you could probably do like a strawberry plant because I heard that they do really well
They
hanging. So you
do.
could
But
hang
what
it.
about what aside from that? We have red ants and we have crazy ants. And if you leave anything
Yes.
out on your counter. Forget it. The next day I mean, I'm just screwed.
Right. So is your strawberry
Yeah.
plant just going to be
With
covered with
ants.
ants all the
So
time?
you know what? These are the things I have to think about, like that I didn't before. I need to stop because I'm getting pissed. All right. That's why I'm thinking doing it outside.
Julie's going to be planning a move.
I have been for a long time. We're still here. Well, my husband does have to make money, so all right.
Well, that pesky thing of having a job.
Goddamn bills. I know. Well, look, he is getting older. He's getting closer to retirement, but I mean, we're talking like over a decade, I've just gotten to the point where the heat is it everything comes to a halt for me. And I take care of dogs, and it is so difficult to walk dogs when it's let's say with the heat index, we're talking 100 degrees, and they don't tell you that on the news. They say, oh, it's going to be a beautiful day of 90 degrees. A, shut up. And B, no, it's not. The heat index is always 5 to 10 degrees hotter, and it is humid all summer long. And I'm outside, and I am dripping from every open pore you can think of after walking the dogs, because the owners need their dogs to be walked at 2 in the afternoon.
It's, you know what? Okay, so I have this, like, the WAG app. And so for a while, I was just walking dogs through that, like, as a fun extra thing to do. And it would be like that. I would see them at 2:00 in the afternoon. And now it's 110 degrees. And I'm like, what? I'm not taking that walk.
There is this, not only for yourself, but the poor dogs. There is this woman whose dog I used to walk. She's an elderly woman, and was an elderly woman. And she wanted me, like literally demanded I come by 3 times a day. First of all, your dog does not need to be walked 3 times a day. I say that only because they have a backyard where they can let the dog out to go to the bathroom. It's one thing.
Oh, so they could just let the dog out.
That's why I'm saying, like, I understand if you need to bring your dog for a walk to go to the bathroom because you don't have a backyard or another area. Of course I get that. But she demanded that I bring this dog for 3 walks, and I come at around 1:30 in the afternoon. And I said to her, look, your dog can't make it. I mean, we're talking just imagine the hottest part of the day, and you've got this little dog with her tongue sticking out, and she's like, oh, here's water. And I'm thinking, wow, so you're actually giving me water because you know that I have to take this dog for a 20 to 30 minute walk I would be across the street from her, and I would literally just sit under they had these big banyan trees across the street from her, and there was a little hill with a bunch of shade. And I was just like, I'm not walking her. I am sitting under the shaded trees, and that's it. Take her for a quick walk, let her do her thing. 5 minutes at the end, another quick walk. But I was in no way putting this dog's health at risk because she demanded that the dog has a walk. Like you just don't even get it. Not only is it bad for dogs, but it's horrible for humans too. Just idiots.
And I know, like, here there's not a whole lot of shade. Like,
well, yeah, you don't get trees there. Cactus flowers.
We don't have trees. The cactus and the little scrubby trees don't provide much shade. And so, I always worry that the ground is hot.
Yeah, of course.
And so, like, then you have this like black asphalt, and would I walk across that barefoot? No. And so I'd be like, you have to get your dog shoes. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're gonna walk them, you have to get them shoes. Because people don't realize, and there's no grass here.
People don't realize that's one of the things that I put on my Instagram account, like every single summer, to remind people that before you cross the street or walk your dog on pavers or asphalt, put your hand down for a few seconds. Would you want to walk on that? I mean, just wake up. I just, look, there are people that just don't think about these things, but I'm very sensitive when it comes to animals, and I know you are too. And if you're going to have an animal in your life, then you better make sure that you know everything that's going to be going on for the health of that dog. Don't get a dog or a horse or a goat or a cat or whatever and not know certain common sense things. Because the dog isn't going to tell you. They're just going to come home and their paws, their pads are going to be cracked and bloody. And it's
Yeah.
just, ugh.
Yeah. And so I see people working their horses here. And like right now, of course, it's nice out. There's a cool breeze. It's great. But I'll see people and they're like, well, you just gotta ride them. It doesn't matter. And I'm like, well, it's so hot. Like I don't want to be out there. They don't want to be out there. I'm just not gonna do that.
All right, let's move on because this is just going to keep pissing us off. All right. This is something I used to love doing with my son in the springtime. There was a park that was very close to where we lived, and we would always go flying kites. Did you ever do that with your son?
Oh, we used to do that, especially in Oklahoma. It's very windy
Oh,
there,
wow.
and so here we could probably do that as well because it is windy quite a few
Yeah.
days. The only thing here is like for all of our power lines here are above ground
Right, right.
because of the hard rock, and so you would have to make sure you found a place that you could
Yeah.
have open sky,
But that's how
and
it
that's the
was
only
in New York. New York, they have
they're above
a
ground.
lot of above ground. I mean, there's below ground too, I believe, but there was a lot of above ground, but not by the park that we went to. And actually here in Florida, I have seen a lot of people, especially at the beaches, flying
Oh
kites.
yes, because it's so
Oh, it's so
open. That would
open and
be
it's so cool. I've seen some really, really funky, cool kites, like with the tails, and they're really long. And I've seen some of those, like the Chinese dragon, really cool
oh
kite, right?
yeah.
All right, so let's see.
That
I'm looking at a list because I knew I wasn't going to be
so
able to remember everything.
here we take the spring as like this is we go and do a lot of hiking, anytime not that's not the summer because like in Florida, the summer is our inside
Yeah.
time, which seems
Hmm.
counterintuitive to what most of the world experiences, but it's just too
Yeah.
hot. So we do a lot of like hiking in the state parks in the
And
summertime
I'm jealous because
or in the
you
springtime.
do have mountains in Florida. I'm
We
sorry,
do.
Arizona, and more elevation. Remember Florida? It's just
We do.
flat,
Oh, it's flat.
flat, and
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
used to that. Even 20 years later, I'm still not used to it.
Yeah, so we do have elevation, which is there's walking trails through mountains like from our house you can go. Um and you just have to go alongside the road a little bit and then you get on like actual hiking trails. And I'm afraid of heights, so I can't go all the way up to like the top because it's actually like almost mountain climbing in certain parts of it and it gets very narrow and like you wouldn't if you were a beginner you wouldn't go
Right.
on there. So but it's really pretty. The red rocks are really pretty and in the spring the cactus they do bloom and there are little blooming like flowers. So it is really the desert is pretty in the
It
springtime
sounds lovely.
before it gets too hot.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something. I know we both deal a lot with the heat in the summertime, and we're very limited, which is why we're fortunate to have, milder winters. But I've
Yes.
noticed a trend over the last, oh, I don't know, maybe decade, where it's staying hotter longer and cooler for less time. And it's just my Monday mission today. I spoke about actual like time, and I was watching this Instagram from Sylvester Stallone, who was talking about, time and how quickly it goes and the things that he would do differently. And it started making me think about, like you have to be a really good time management person just to know that, okay, this is the amount of time that we probably have to enjoy this beautiful weather. And instead of being
Yes.
inside, although look, I know people work and they have no choice, but when you do have free time or just make free time, people say, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so this, I'm so that. But maybe you just need to be a better time manager. You manage your time better. And that's what I was talking about today, that, to me, I've been just as busy as the next person. I know what it's like to be busy. You know what it's like to be busy, but there's always a little teeny window that you can create for yourself
Right.
to,
And so we had this conversation the other day about you'll make time for things that are important to you.
yeah,
Like you'll take that 20 minutes or
right.
whatever. And so anytime I think to myself when I'm like, well, I don't have time, I'm like, well, nope, it's just not a priority
Well,
for
that's
you.
just it.
Like,
That's just it. And I agree. And I just think that we sometimes get so caught up. And I appreciate, people who are busy and it's hard to find the time, but I've always managed to find time for the things that are important to me, like with, and I think you and I touched on this subject when, you have a friend that says, "Oh, I've been so busy." Listen, you're
Yes.
never that busy where you can't send a 10-second text. "Hi, sorry, been busy, thinking of you. We'll touch base soon." Something so
Yes.
simple, but people, I think it's more of a lazy kind of an attitude, just
Yeah, I think so
easy
too.
to settle into just saying stuff like that. I know I spoke about farmers markets, but I've got to tell you, I love the farmers market where I live. Everything is so fresh and so bright. I love bright colored vegetables and fruits that you can like just make it like a vegetable medley at night. We just
Hmm.
our barbecue died, so we had to get a new one, and my husband got like an all stainless steel. The one that we had before that was cast iron. But I love my new barbecue because it's got such wonderful even heating and it cooks the vegetables so nice that I was like, we have got to go to the farmer's market. And there's a new, what they call a twilight market now on Fridays. So you go like at nighttime when the sun is slowly starting to settle, and we went, and every vendor had all different kinds of vegetables and different kinds of fruit, and I bought a medley. And the next day on Saturday came home, and I literally threw almost everything I had on the barbecue and just made that with some protein and just ate tons and tons and tons of. I like to. Did you ever barbecue fruit before?
I've never, you know what? I don't like cooked fruit.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's, yeah. So like I don't eat fruit pies or anything, but we have put, like when we make kebabs,
Mm.
we put pineapple on it
Ah,
because,
yum.
my family, yeah. And so other people in my family have enjoyed the barbecued fruits, but I haven't ever tried it. Maybe I would like them barbecued. I should
You know what? It
probably
has a
try them a different
It's
way.
yeah, the kebab thing is a great idea. Like, did you ever have a salad that maybe has some little pieces of green apple or grapes or see, I'm not a
Yes.
big fruit person in general. The only way I get my fruits is by having smoothies. I will make myself a smoothie every
Oh.
day. Well, not every day. I like to say it, but it's not true. It's like 2 days a week. And that's but when I do, Rhonda, I add every fruit I have, like mangoes and blueberries and strawberries and and I add a little teeny bit of vanilla yogurt and some apple juice. But I was like, I know that my son and my husband are going to eat this fruit, but I wonder what it would taste like. And so I did. I have to tell you, the only way I ate the barbecued fruit is with the protein. I made some
Oh,
chop like a chopped meat kind of chili thing, and that's the only way I'll eat it because I think that they tend to get a little bit tangier, like that
oh
the
yes, yeah.
tanginess kind of comes out from the heat, maybe.
Like it gets rid of the sweet
Well,
aspect
they're
of it.
still sweet, but the like let's say like the pineapple for example, the pineapple is a little tangy and a little sweet, right? I feel as though
Uh-huh.
when you had it, didn't you taste like more tanginess than sweet?
You see, I've never tried it.
Oh,
I've
you
just
didn't
made
have
it for
it. Oh,
them. Yeah.
you didn't even
I,
have it.
I just, you know what? I don't know what it is. I can't wrap my
I
head
get
around
it.
cooking fruit. And it's, you know what? It's even like I made this pasta yesterday and I used whole cherry tomatoes in it. And I love cherry tomatoes. I can eat them raw all the time or in salads. But after I cooked them,
Hmm.
I picked them out of the
I'm with
pasta.
you.
I couldn't. And I think maybe the texture to me looks like it's soggy or
Ooh,
too
I
soft.
don't like the taste.
And
I don't like the taste of it.
but I like tomato-based
Yes, but they're
sauces,
smushed.
right?
They're smushed.
Right. They're crushed, and so it's
You know
different.
what I don't like? I don't like what are those other the oh my God. They're tomatoes, but they're dried. The tomatoes,
Oh, like
what's it
yes,
called?
like the
The
sun-dried
sun-dried.
tomatoes.
Oh my God. I can't. I just absolutely cannot have sun-dried tomatoes in anything. It destroys the taste for me.
Me too. And I don't. Okay, so yeah, I just can't do
All right, let's
it.
just finish up with a few more things. I love to go to a drive-in movie theater. There's not a lot of them around anymore, but there happens to be one up the street from where I live. And when it's nice out, They reopened it a few months ago. I haven't been in about 2 years, but I do love going. They didn't really have many movies that I would see. But when my son was a little younger, and my husband and I about 2 years ago just went with another couple, you can bring like a portable radio and you can sit outside and you can have like a little picnic and watch outside on the big screen. That to me is just something
Yes.
really nice to do instead of being bitten up and eaten up by all the mosquitoes in the summertime. And apparently
Right.
there's
And
like
that's
foot long mosquitoes coming our way too. So,
so the last time I went to the drive-in, it was in the summer, and I just remember we left when I took Jacob, and we left because we would like we were getting eaten
yeah,
by all of the bugs that Oklahoma had to offer, and it was just miserable. It was the summertime. It was hot. It was noisy because there was a bunch of teenagers there that were being so loud. And then the bugs were
ridiculous.
insane. And Jacob finally was like, "Can we just
See?
go?" He's like, "I know you wanted me to feel the nostalgia of a drive-in,
You
but
know what? It
this is
destroys,
not
yeah,
fun."
it destroys a good time. And I can't believe there was someone, I think, over the summertime, I can't believe we're getting close to almost a year that I saw this. Someone posted, "Does anyone know what this is?" And it was a mosquito that was about the size of my palm. And that's what
Oh,
someone
no.
wrote. They said, yeah, those are those new mosquitoes. And I was like, are you kidding me? And she next to it had a picture of a bite that she got from it that was like the
Oh
size
my
of like the
God.
biggest zit you could ever get like on your face. And
Oh
she said
no.
she said
Yeah.
it doesn't even itch. It throbs. It had like its own heartbeat. And I'm
Ooh.
thinking to myself, okay, well, just another reason to leave this state. And then what do they have? What are those bees called now? Those murder hornets?
Oh, the
What
murder
the
hornets.
hell?
Yes.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's an apocalypse. Something's happening. It reminds me of the Ten Commandments. First there will be this, and then there'll be that. This
Yes,
is what it reminds me of.
I keep saying that. I'm like, this is the plague, and then we're gonna have swarms of
It's
bugs,
happened.
and I said it's happening. This is the beginning
Did
of
I
the
tell
end.
you, I do a lot of walking and I wasn't able to for a while, but in Florida, because of the bugs, the only time to go is either early morning or later at night when it's summertime. And I actually invested in like a mosquito net around my head.
You know what? I would do
I
that
got one.
because
Goes over
it's
your head.
so bad. I remember being in Florida, and they're just so bad. They're bad here too as
Hmm.
well, but I think at a certain point it gets too hot and dry.
Yeah.
When all the water gets dried up, and there's not mosquitoes, there's just tons of other biting
It's just
bugs. Like I
disgusting.
always I always joke that everything in Arizona is trying to kill
Oh
you,
God.
like from the sun to the lack of water to every single native tree and bush has thorns on it. So, and everything is venomous or poisonous. There's
Oh.
scorpions and
Oh.
tarantulas, and those are
No,
just
no, no,
everywhere.
no, no, no.
And so, yeah, I just joke that like everything here is trying to kill you. Fortunately, we don't get very many bugs in our house because we have cats.
Yes.
And so I think before we ever see them, now we have had to take a giant tarantula out of the house
Oh my
before.
God.
And if people scroll back on my Instagram, they will see the picture of it. It's huge.
I
It's
have to
like,
see that.
and yeah, so if you scroll back on
Which
the
Instagram?
Instagram,
Your
you'll
personal or
you'll
the
see
biz?
it. My
Okay, I'm gonna
personal
go
one,
look.
yeah, the Rhonda Marie one.
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll see it. It's in a Tupperware container. Um,
Ew.
and yeah, and it was, we were sitting outside. It was last summer, and Aubrey, we sent her in to go take a shower, and she comes out just like crying hysterically. And we're like, we can't understand you. We don't know what's happened. What did something? We thought something like one of the guinea pig, like she found one of the guinea pigs dead or
Oh,
something. Like because that's how she was
yeah.
crying. But no, it was just a big spider, and I thought it was huge, but I've since learned that that was actually a little one.
Oh my
But
God.
but it's like bigger than my
Okay,
hand.
no. No,
Yeah.
I'm looking through your Instagram and I'm trying to find it.
It's a
Yeah, I
ways back
figured.
because it's
So,
from last summer.
last year.
But yes, it is. I'll
Oh
send
my
you the
God,
picture.
it's in a
Uh,
Tupperware. Okay, guys,
yes.
uh, this what the actual hell? Where
Yes.
where where in your house was that?
In the bathroom.
It
in the
says
bathroom.
here, guys, this evening, Emma and I had an adventure capturing this uninvited guest and removing it from the bathroom. All right. I'm very certain that your significant other caught it, not you, right?
Uh, yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, really.
I mean, I'm not like, I don't have like a fear of spiders really. Like, I'm not going to run scared from one out of the
Right.
room, but I'm definitely not picking that sucker
Hell
up.
to the no. No, I would get the man of the house to do. It's really funny because my husband hates snakes. And about, I mean, 2, 3 weeks ago, we get garden snakes here. We also can have the occasional poisonous snake. I remember when we first moved here, I had to teach my son about like, and I've already since forgotten, like red on black or yellow and red, and you don't touch. It was like a rhyme. Um, but about 2, 3 weeks ago, my husband comes inside and he's like, "Hey, listen, I just want to tell you, there's a snake outside by the swale, so just be careful." And I'm like, "Wait, what? What do you mean by?"
Are you going to get it?
So
Like,
he goes, "Oh no, no,
that's
no,
that's the first thing I would ask Mark. I'd be
yeah,
like, well, are you going to
right."
remove
And he
it?
goes, "Oh no, 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 it's dead." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Did you kill it?" He goes, "No." I said, "So get rid of it." And he's like, I'm not touching that thing, right? My husband, I'm not touching that thing. And so I went outside and yeah, it was dead. And at some point, I guess someone removed it because I wasn't going near it. But years prior to that, I remember, our landscaper was outside. We were talking and we had said, my husband had said, just be careful. We saw a spider. We saw a snake in the landscaping. I don't think it's poisonous, but I'm just making you aware. And all of a sudden, this son of a bitch started creeping up by him, and he had a shovel in his hand and just split the thing in half. And I was like, and he did it so matter of factly, like, oh, it's a snake. Done. Like no remorse, no like hesitation, and then picked it up with his hand and threw it over this wall that we have into my neighbor's yard, which was lovely. And he's like, "Don't worry, the birds will come and get it." And
that's how Mark
right.
handles it. He's, he finds a baby rattlesnake
Oh
in our yard,
no.
and we kind of like, do we kill it? Do we just let it go?
Oh,
Like it's just, but we have so many animals, we can't
sure.
just, it's a poisonous snake if he were to bite something. And so he just chops it with the shovel and then
Oh
just like
no.
tosses it into the, yeah. Now
Oh.
we did feel kind of bad though because like you know, it's not
We
like
felt kind of bad.
it's not its fault that it's a poisonous snake, but we just can't take that
Of
chance of,
course.
it bites one of our horses in the faces or
Oh
something.
my God, a rattlesnake.
And our dogs they're not savvy. And I know you can get your dogs, you can take them to that like snake training course and they have them here all the
Yeah.
time. But our dogs are not savvy. They were like, oh, what is this? And sticking their faces right up to it.
God, you know what? The only time I ever saw a rattlesnake was when we were living in Georgia and we were at the Chattahoochee River. And at the time we had a chocolate lab and he loved going in the Chattahoochee River. And so, we would throw the ball and he would come back. So we're leaving. And my parents had come to visit at the time. And off to the side, my dad said, "Oh, look, a rattlesnake." I have no idea how he saw it because it was like camouflaged. And I, the idiot, start walking over to get a better look. Nothing happened, but I was so intrigued. And, the tail and everything was going. And that was it. It was all, coiled up. But it was so fascinating to see that in Georgia. I didn't know they existed in Georgia.
I think they're pretty
Oh my
much
God.
everywhere at
No,
this
don't
point.
say that. I don't need them in Florida. Just another.
Well, you guys have to worry about water
All right,
moccasins
look. I have to worry
in
about
every
alligators in my own
and
neighborhood.
alligators. Yes, okay. So when I moved to Oklahoma, people swim in lakes there a lot, and I would always just like stand on the shore, and they'd be like, "Why don't you
Nope.
swim in the
Nope.
lakes?" And I said, "Well, because there's alligators," and they're like, "Not in Oklahoma." And I was like, "I
No.
don't." It's just so ingrained in
Yes.
me that there is things that live in the lakes, and you don't go in fresh water in
Just
Florida.
period.
So
Just right. I have to tell you
yeah,
something, and I know you're not going to believe me, and I swear it's true. My husband's my witness. Many, many months ago, I would say even over a year ago, we were walking and we have, several man-made lakes in Florida, as you know, and all different kinds of mammals and well, I'm not no, not mammals, all different kinds of like you got the alligators and fish and stuff like that, right? That come through the canals and they're all kind of interconnected. So we're walking
Right.
and my husband stops and he's like, wait a minute, is that an alligator right in front of the lake? And it had like, what are those called? Not the, is it like the vertebrae, the things that stick up on the back,
Oh, like on their back, the
the
little
spiky
spiky
things. I know
things.
there's a name, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah. What? Yeah,
So
the
at
spiky
first,
things.
and it was a distance from us. At first, I'm like, "Oh my God, that is an alligator. We should probably tell them, so they can catch it and put it somewhere else." But here's the thing: as it got closer and it got closer, it kind of was going in and out of the water in an arch, like a sea urchin or
Oh.
something, or like a serpent, a sea serpent. It was not, Rhonda, I'm telling you, it was not an alligator because alligators they swim flat, right? Or they might dive. But
Right.
this thing was like what what's it called? Is the Japanese monster um um versus whatever. What's it called? Godzilla.
Godzilla.
Okay, it was like Godzilla in an ocean or a deep deep lake, and it was just like going in and out, like almost like a snake. And I'm like, what the actual beep is that? And I'm watching, I couldn't see the face, but I could just see this thing swimming like in and out and in and out. And so the clubhouse happened to just be like right next to us, so I'm like, you've got to see this. So they come out and they're like, what the is that? And I'm like, I don't know. So I don't know if they ever called like Fish and Wildlife, but I am telling you, it was not an alligator. It was some kind of crazy creature. And I've told so many people since then, and they think I'm psycho. I'm like, no, my husband was there. So they think that my husband is equally psycho. But the things that live in this state,
Oh, it's so much. There is a lot of wildlife
and now we have
there.
foxes
And
all around us. People have been reporting that their dogs have been attacked by foxes. And I mean, I actually started looking at these vests that you can get that have spikes on them that you can put on smaller dogs
oh yeah,
because to
to
protect
protect
them.
them.
I mean, it looks silly, but I mean, if you're in an area like further out west, like Loxahatchee, where there's lots and lots of open area, I mean, they're very susceptible to more wildlife there than where I live. I think it's a great idea to get something like that. Or I don't know, just don't leave your dog out. Have them close by.
Yeah, and especially if they're small, like our dogs are big,
Right.
and
And I'm
so
used to having big dogs, but what about prey? What about like you've got hawks and vultures that are
right.
above and they will circle right
Yeah,
above you.
and small dogs are
Did
targets
you
for
ever see
them.
that movie with
You know.
Sandra Bullock, The Proposal? Okay, do you remember
Yes.
when she was outside with the dog and the dog got picked up by the bird? That's what I'm
Yes.
talking
Hmm.
about. It can
Yep.
happen.
No,
All right, let's wrap
it
this up,
can
lady.
happen.
Why don't you tell the people
Okay.
how they can touch base with you?
They can find me on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok at Rhonda Marie, and clotheslineapparelcompany.com for all my shirts
And
and
tell them
stuff.
about your mental health coaching.
So I just started mental health coaching, and I'm putting together a confidence
Oh,
challenge where people could win money just for participating.
very cool. All right, guys. And for me, everything on social media is nothing but Julie. Same with the podcast. We are available on all different podcast streaming platforms. And you can also check out my blog at nothingbutjulie.wordpress.com. Have a fabulous week, Rhonda. All right, bye.